Every year, tens of thousands of people vanish across the United States. Some leave notes, some leave cars still running, and others seem to dissolve into the air itself. These aren't your typical missing person stories. No media frenzy, no nationwide searches, just quiet, unsettling disappearances that leave investigators haunted for decades. Tonight, we'll uncover 5 of the darkest, most mysterious vanishings you've probably never heard of. Cases that defy logic, challenge reason, and make you question what's truly possible. So sit back, turn off the lights, and remember, sometimes the scariest stories aren't from horror movies. They're real. Case 1. Brandon Swanson, the boy who vanished mid-call, Minnesota, 2008. It was just after midnight when Brandon Swanson, a 19-year-old college student, drove home after a small celebration with friends. The night was calm, the roads empty. But somewhere between Lind and Marshall, Minnesota, Brandon's car veered off the road into a shallow ditch. He wasn't hurt. In fact, he called his parents, calmly explaining he needed a ride. They stayed on the phone as he tried to describe his location. Brandon said he could see lights in the distance, maybe the town. But when his father followed the directions, he found nothing but dark, empty farmland. For 47 minutes, Brandon stayed on the line, guiding them, laughing nervously at times. Then, suddenly, his voice shifted. "Oh, shit." The call cut out. Search teams found his car the next morning. Doors locked, keys gone, no sign of struggle. Bloodhounds tracked his scent across fields, along gravel roads, and up to the edge of a river. But the scent didn't end at the water. It stopped in the middle of a field, as if he'd simply disappeared. To this day, there's no body, no phone, no clue. Some believe he fell into the river and was swept away, but others claim something stranger happened that night. Something no one can explain. Case 2. The Bennington Triangle, where people vanish into the woods, Vermont, 1945 to 1950. Between 1945 and 1950, a small region of Vermont became infamous for what locals now call the Bennington Triangle, an area where compasses fail, time feels distorted, and people vanish without a trace. It began with Mitty Rivers, a 74-year-old hunting guide who knew the mountains better than anyone. One November afternoon, he led a group through the woods. He walked a few steps ahead and was never seen again. His rifle casing was later found, but no other trace. Next came Paula Weldon, a young college student. On December 1st, 1946, she decided to take a hike on the same trail. Witnesses saw her heading up the mountain, bright red coat, blonde hair visible even from afar. She never returned. Despite one of the largest searches in Vermont history, including soldiers and bloodhounds, no sign of Paula was ever found. Over the next few years, 3 more people vanished. A man from a bus, while it was still moving. A veteran who walked into the woods and never came out, and a little boy who disappeared while playing near his mother. 5 disappearances, same area, no bodies, no evidence. Even today, hikers report strange lights in the sky and voices whispering in the trees. The Bennington Triangle remains one of America's most haunted regions, and no one knows what it wants. Case 3. The Hayden Family, the Vanished Campers of the Ozarks, Missouri, 2013. In 2013, the Hayden family, Jake, Melissa, and their 5-year-old daughter Lily, drove into the Ozark Mountains for what was supposed to be a relaxing weekend camping trip. They told friends they'd return Sunday. They never did. 2 weeks later, a park ranger found their SUV abandoned on a dirt road deep in the woods. Inside, half-eaten food, an unopened tent, and a camcorder still recording. The last footage shows the family sitting by a fire. Jake suddenly looks off screen and says quietly, "Do you hear that?" Then, static. The footage was analyzed by the FBI but never released to the public. Local rumor says strange sounds were heard in the background, almost mechanical, but not from any known source. The forest where they vanished is notorious for bizarre lights and disorienting echo patterns, as if the trees themselves shift when you aren't looking. Despite years of searching, no trace of the R.E. Haydens was ever found. Some believe they encountered a wild animal. Others say something older, something not human, lives deep within the Ozarks. And it doesn't let people go. Case 4. Stephen Kubacki, the man who walked out of nowhere. Michigan, 1978. On February 19, 1978, college student Stephen Kubacki went skiing near Lake Michigan. When he didn't return, rescuers followed his tracks to the edge of the frozen lake, but the footprints continued onto the ice, then simply stopped. No cracks, no hole, no body. He was declared dead. 15 months later, Stephen walked into his father's house in Massachusetts, alive, confused, and claiming to have no memory of where he'd been. He was wearing different clothes and carrying a backpack filled with random items, maps of cities he'd never visited, a strange medallion and cash from several states. He said he had woken up in a field hundreds of miles from where he vanished. Stephen refused to discuss what happened publicly. He later earned a degree in psychology and wrote a book about consciousness, but never mentioned the disappearance again. Some researchers link his case to the so-called Lake Michigan Triangle, an area known for shipwrecks, plane vanishings, and bizarre phenomena. To this day, no one, not even Stephen, knows where he was for those missing 15 months. Case 5. The Death Valley Germans, California, 1996. In July 1996, 4 German tourists, Cornelia Meyer, Egbert Rimkus, and their 2 children, set out to explore Death Valley National Park. They never came back. Months later, their rented minivan was discovered abandoned on a desolate dirt road, over 70 miles from the main route. The tires were shredded, the radiator destroyed, and their map showed handwritten notes, as if they'd been desperately trying to find a way out. Inside, rangers found melted candles, empty bottles, and undeveloped film rolls. The photos revealed their last moments, smiling in front of landmarks, then standing beside their van in an endless desert. The final photo? A rocky hill at sunset, one child pointing toward the horizon. 13 years later, in 2009, hikers found human remains, 2 adults, miles from the van. But the children's bodies were never found. To this day, no one knows why the family drove so far off course or what they were following. Into the desert. Death Valley keeps many secrets, and some say this family stumbled upon one that was never meant to be found. 5 stories, 5 disappearances. Each one defies logic, and each one leaves behind that haunting silence, where answers should be. We like to believe everything has an explanation, that with enough evidence, every mystery can be solved. But some stories refuse to be closed. Maybe it's the land, maybe it's something darker, or maybe some people walk too far down the wrong road and never come back. Which case disturbed you the most? Leave your theory in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, because next time we're going even deeper into the world of America's unsolved vanishings.